Welcome, family, to Confinement Talks. Number 2, indeed. Today, we return with another edition of your weekly rendezvous now, called Confinement Talks. Welcome to those of you who are already tuned in. Master Electronic, thank you very much for joining, brother. I appreciate you. And everyone else, of course. How are you guys doing on this day? Today, I have a panel of brothers, kings, that is one that I look forward to introducing you all to, because first of all, some of them are friends, some of them are about to be friends, and an amazing opportunity to also talk about the impact and the opportunities that comes along with this whole COVID-19 pandemic hitting us, worldwide, and especially our industry, the entertainment, nightlife, and music industry is being hit massively. And so joining us today for this beautiful conversation, we have my brother King, my big brother, Mr. Greg Maloka, indeed, who is going to be joining us from South Africa. And we have, of course, here joining us right, obviously on the same panel, we have Mr. Cuebur, joined with Mr. Vanco, also from South Africa. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. I'm about to bring you guys on the chat very, very, very pronto, just doing the rounds up. Welcome to Mr. Saint Ivo, representing Kenya. The man is extremely proactive, and I'm extremely happy to have him as well on this lineup, because I know all the other guys, but him is one I don't know of. I know his music, but we've met, but we never really had the chance to sit down and talk. And today is one of those moments where we just get to gather and chat. And of course, last but not least, my guy, my bro, my man, Adrien Assadian, l'héritier, l'homme très fort, le leader, the one and only Mr. Adrien Assadian, owner of the June, together with his father. It's a family business. This is one of the temple, one of the holy grail of house music in France. The June is the Mecca. The June is your Vatican for when it comes, if you want to compare things in terms of magnitude, it's a place where house music lives and has lived for years. And we're about to talk on all these things for the next 2 hours, an hour and a half and 2 hours. So without further ado, let me bring the guest here. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us. Let's get right into it. I'm going to mute everybody for that matter. Let's make sure that we can all interact and be heard accordingly. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome. Pleasure, brother. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Of course.
Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure.
In the proper African fashion, let's first of all welcome our big brother, the boss, the one and only Mr. Greg Maloka. How are you, my brother?
Thank you, my brother. I'm good, man. How's everybody? Gentlemen, hi.
Everyone's good, man. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you.
Very good to have you, gentlemen. Today it's a very informal conversation, so please make yourself comfortable. And we are about to start writing. Cuebur, I know we have a bit of a sound issue with your phone being busy charging right now, but it's fine. We will be able to sort this out as we go through the live. Brothers, as I introduce the topic today, I want to speak on the impact of Cuebur. In the meantime, I'm going to mute you. I'm going to mute you so that it doesn't create a bit of a disruption with the sound. But I'll bring you in as soon as I give you the floor to speak. So basically, as I introduced the conversation, I wanted us to talk on the impact of this terrible pandemic on our industry and on us as producers, DJs, radio people, industry, etc., etc. And since we have the big bro Greg joining us, and Greg, I want to give you the floor so that we can speak a little bit on that and what's your take on how it's being impacting us, and especially in South Africa. What is your observation, and what do you see, man? How do you see this impacting, and how people surviving this shit, man?
First, let me say it's so good to see you, my brother.
Likewise,
We
brother.
haven't, we've been speaking via the wires. I haven't seen or, touched and felt your blood. I really miss you. So thank you for having me on this chat.
Likewise, brother.
And also just to, acknowledge Papa.
Indeed.
And he's my Papa too.
Yes, sir. Yes,
We
sir.
share in many ways. So, after this chat, I will do the ritual. You know the ritual.
Amen. Amen. I appreciate you for that, brother. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
man,
Definitely.
So, the pandemic has been hard, I think, across humanity, and I mean, each person speaks largely on behalf of their industry, but I want to put it down to humanity because, ours is an industry that cuts across, all forms of humans in whatever space and whatever place. So, for people who are in the accounting business, for people who are in the medical business, for people who are in, different industries, we've seen different impacts. The sad truth is that the impact has been, negative right across, many industries. I have quite a few friends who, are found in, many, across many different industries, and everyone is feeling the pain. Even in the medical industry, where people might think that there's a lot of activity there, there's more anxiety than anything. My sister, who is also in the front lines in the medical field, you have to check on her all the time because she says she took an oath not to count bodies, but to save lives. And in the way things are happening right now, it's quite a heavy situation. But having said that, I mean, I think as humans that believe in ancestry, there's humans that believe in spirits, as humans that believe in God, we all understand, that this is an event that is forcing us to think a little different. And if you think about it, and if you look at it, a lot of bad things have happened, not just the pandemic, but just it seems humanity has gone mad. And hopefully, we will find our way back as this particular year unfolds. It's not going to be easy. I think a lot of people are looking forward to a new year, but it just doesn't automatically change at midnight, and become, something different. You still
We
have
wish,
to.
we wish it was like that. You could just switch the
Yeah, I
button.
know. Yeah, I know. It's been tough, but the human spirit is more resilient, and I think we'll do all right.
For sure. And let me ask Adrien, as far as clubs are concerned, how are you in Paris? How are you guys coping as of June? It's been a year that you guys have been closed, and I believe you can speak very comfortably on behalf of any club owners, especially you guys as the June. Tell us a little bit about how you've been coping with it and what kind of procedures have you put in place in order to stay alive?
Well, it's been almost a year, and we're lucky that one of the last parties was yours, so we have enough good memories to last us for a little more.
I'm glad I'm the last memory you had so far. Well, I'm not the sexiest, but I compensate.
You're always up there. But yeah, it's been tough, but I mean, we're lucky enough to be in good health and with a roof over our heads, so we're not the most impacted, but yes, as far as the clubs go, it's been difficult. We have basically zero income for 10 months now. We have some helps from the government, but it's not enough to cover the cost. And the big problem is we still don't know when we're going to be able to do what we do again.
Yeah.
Some very hopeful people are saying summer. I don't think so. And honestly, at this point, I'm tired of giving deadlines and setting dates
in hopes that he's going to get back.
No one really knows for now. So all we can do is wait. we took a little break from our usual content to do some renovations. So we are working on the floor right now.
You're coming back fresh.
Doing the hardwood floors fresh again, so we can welcome our dancers in a proper environment when the time comes. And yeah, once that's done, we have some more content coming with some of our favorite artists, because they didn't stop creating just because they were locked down. So that's good.
It's true. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I've seen that you guys, as of June, had started some live shows, and you were showcasing a couple of the previous guests that you had. How do you see that evolving this year? Are you going to continue doing that, or is that something that you're putting on hold for now?
We've put it a little bit on hold because of the construction, not the construction, but the work. But once the place is properly ready to be exploited again, we'll start. Because for now, since we're in construction, we're doing the live streams somewhere else. But once we can use the booth again, we have way more content coming for sure. Because our mission at the end of the day is to share music. And if it's not going to be in the club, it's going to be right here on the internet. And that will not be the same experience, but that's still better than no music. So we'll be there.
Evo, Mr. Saint Evo the Myth.
Yeah, buddy.
Representing Kenya, Nairobi.
Well,
are you based in Nairobi? Where are you based exactly? So I don't make no mistakes as far as your geographical location.
Oh, actually, I'm based in a place called Kitengela, Milimani.
Kitengela, okay, all right.
Yeah,
apologies to all those living there. I didn't mean to be disrespectful.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool, man. We're about 40-minute drive away from Nairobi. So we're not really that far, neither that close. Yeah.
Okay, all right. How are you guys? Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, obviously Kenya, you're one of the leaders of the, house and Afro house movement out there. And you've really earned your stripes and worked super hard on getting your brand seen worldwide and supported, as a matter of fact. And so as you, one of the, the ambassadors of your country for the movement, for the sound, tell us a little bit about, how this has impacted you and, how are you guys surviving, because, obviously I would imagine it's pretty much the same for everyone, but tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been a bit hectic here, they recently moved the curfew. We actually had a curfew for 11 p.m. So they moved it to 10 p.m. So now, people have just been trying to adjust, But at least I could say the good thing is at least we can be able to do some live shows. But we've now had to adjust to now doing day shows.
Okay.
So you'd have shows happening from 12 noon to 8 p.m. So at least there has been a way for the artists to make
clubs, showing shows in clubs.
Yes, shows in clubs. But obviously with minimal numbers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you added that just to make sure that
definitely. No, but with minimal numbers, controlled numbers. Everyone is adhering to the COVID regulations. But other than that, personally, it's a bit hectic also, moving around, being able to interact with friends, interacting with family. It's been a bit restricted because, some people are living quite far. You can't make it to the place and back within the curfew. So personally, it's been a bit draining, not being able to interact and also not being able to have people in studio or go to other studios. But other than that, at least the government here has given us a bit of a leeway for the artists to make an income, but it has still hit us hard because a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have been, the salaries have been slashed. So it's been quite hectic, but people are trying to adapt.
100%. Yeah. Oh man, Vanco, Mr. Vanco, the man.
Yes, my brother.
Everybody's talking about Vanco. I said, hey, did you see Vanco here? Did you see Vanco there? Vanco. I'm like, Vanco is making waves. Hey,
Oh wow, Thank you, Boddhi. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, but I'm good. You know, we're here. We're looking at you, Baba. We're just looking at you like, we're
Come
rooting.
on,
We're rooting.
come on, man. No, first of all, it's an honor, man. Talking to you. Just beyond music, we brothers, and we talk
Sure.
life and stuff. And I appreciate it. And I think everyone else that's on the panel, it's surprisingly, it's people that I also like speak to, from time to time, and I bump into the likes of Malome Greg, my brother Cuebur, Adrien and Saint Evil, and it's a good feeling. So yeah, man, it's been a challenging time, and I would like to echo the same sentiments as Craig. He has covered basically like what's happening in South Africa. It's lockdown. Industries from different trades, like you name it, from construction, mining, to entertainment. It's been an intense and hard times where we can't make a living, and we're all away. But at the same time, this is just my opinion and how I'm just analyzing it, and I stand to be correct. Sometimes when it's like a pandemic like this, there is people who are going to win, and there's people who also gonna get some opportunities during such times. And I feel like this is the time that challenges us to think outside the box. Like here in South Africa, for some artists, I'll give an example, we have lockdown artists, which is taking the entertainment from the clubs where even other people didn't know of certain artists or couldn't get a chance to see certain artists. Just now, because someone in the industry thought, and the whole team, that they had to like crack the code and introduce a show where people can still, artists or musicians can still benefit. It sometimes I look at it as it doesn't have to benefit us in monetary terms. Sometimes growth can be in someone recognizing your efforts. So for me, I've been analyzing it that way, that if you think outside the box, things might happen for you. But in a nutshell, it's been, and also trying to understand that as an artist, you need to have like different forms of income. Like as an artist, you get money through royalties. There's people who are doing like live streams and they get tips, and then that's how they get money. And gone are the days where we're just gonna wait for gigs, wait for music sales. So just like what Greg and Saint Evil and Adrien say, that it's all about just keeping up the culture alive, in a nutshell. Yeah. So how to keep the culture alive, through releasing music, and I'm sure it's a time where we gotta be strong and hope for the best. Yeah.
Cuebur. Cuebur just left us. So what happened with his connection now? Ay. Oh my God, man. Yo, it's crazy how resilient we are, and I love the odd to which Brother Greg literally beautifully. But Greg, come on, man, bro. Let's just put it this way. I always enjoy sitting down and smoking a good cigar with you and just talking life, because you just bring that wisdom. And I see the books behind you. It speaks volume on how much you know and how much you really have as far as wisdom. And you said something that's very important that Vanco just echoed. It's all about that. That's resilience, and people like us who work with spirit and with this connection with ancestry is really, 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 really important, because it allows us to stay sort of like sane and sort of like creative in a way, despite all these odds and these crazy and difficult times,
Yeah. I mean, so the in one of the big lessons out of this whole challenge that we face ourselves, or that faces us is having to change how we do things, right? So, having to change how one conducts their entire life, really. So it's not just about the career that you're in, but it's also about thinking about all the other different bits that connect to the industry that you are in. So if you think about DJs typically, DJs would focus on getting bookings and getting as many bookings as possible, and not concerning themselves with gates if they're getting in with a promoter that's able to pay, but also so the focus is sort of singular. But right now we have to understand the different parts that impact the industry at its healthiest, right? So if you think about the alcohol industry, truth be told, this is where all of these industries center around, right? So whether you're a restaurant or a club, or any kind of space where people gather, to enjoy themselves, the alcohol sales are then very critical, to revenue streams. So as an artist now, you sort of have to say to yourself, well, I did not have this, maybe you didn't have this understanding of how you are impacted by something that's seemingly far away from you, because you are here kind of doing your performance. So in light of that, and in light of what that industry needs now, what are the creative ways of thinking around those particular industries, in order to continue the relationship, but perhaps in a different platform, start a new conversation, so understanding all the inputs that go into what makes, revenues for you becomes an important thing. This whole COVID and lockdown is forcing us to be, so beyond artists, we've just got to be entrepreneurs, and we've got to be marketers, and we've got to be creatives, all at the same time. So it's a big opportunity, I feel, now that we've gone through the crying of losing jobs and losing money and losing all these things. We now have to kind of sit back and say, okay, so what's our fight back strategy? What are we learning out of this, and what are we taking with us? And I think a complete understanding of how the industry works is what is now required, and an ecosystem is something that's got to be built by the creatives now, not the marketers, not people who own products, but the creators themselves.
I agree with you on that one, and I want to get Evil's reaction to what you just said here. What do you take from that, and are you already implementing what Brother Greg just dropped here as far as knowledge? Give me 1 second. Sorry, let me unmute you. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I agree with what Greg is saying. With sales being hard, with physical sales, digital sales, name it. With advertising spending being hard. Big brands pausing their advertising campaigns, some slashing their budgets, which are affecting ad-supported, music channels, which results to revenues, for the industry and less income for the artists. We have to look for other innovative ways. So I totally agree with what Greg is saying. We need to look for innovative ecosystems, where we how do we put it? Where we basically have to understand that with this impact as well happening, it has affected human behavior.
Exactly.
People have had the time to sit down and introspect and reevaluate, and some of them even have less disposable income right now. You know what I mean? So
no, that's definitely the majority of that's exactly. For majority of people. Yeah,
exactly. So you see that has impacted a the human behavior of everyone, including our fans and people who consume music as well. You know,
True.
and you know, finding these innovative ecosystems, which I think we're all learning on how we can do this. I don't have all the answers, but
No, but we're here to
you know,
explore that.
exactly. You know, it's all about also understanding how we can now return that tangible, how to put it, that tangible value in music. You know, not only in music, how can we interact and be able to be more innovative in regards to understanding how the system works and how we can be able to basically, if something like this is to happen again, you know, how can we all be cushioned? How can we all find ways of you know?
You're right. And I believe one
You
of
know
the
what I mean?
things that we need to do is
Yeah.
save money. That's for sure. Because
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
this has disclosed
That's
the
right.
amount of
That's right.
Exactly.
my brother.
Because you know, the thing is, a number of trends have been affected. There's where we listen to music, when we listen to music, why we listen to music, and crucially, what we listen to has been fundamentally affected. You know, in the course of this last year. You know, and that goes in tandem with the human behavior. And I was talking to a couple of my friends who are psychologists and sociologists, you know, and I was trying to rack their minds to understand how this pandemic has affected human behavior. And I think us as music contributors, I think these are the other ways we should look to finding solutions as well, you know, because I think it will help us in basically understanding the way forward.
We will get. I like that you're touching
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
Adrien, as of June, I know you guys have also started the label quite some time ago, a number of years ago. How has this whole pandemic impacted you in maybe reshaping or maybe focusing more on the record label? Have you done that? And you know, we spoke about you guys doing the live and then stopping for the moment because you're refurbishing the club. But yeah, as the label, June, what are you guys doing?
Well, since we were so busy with the events, the label kind of took a step back for a while. But now, we are. This year we've been bringing it back, and we want to have like one release a month for the foreseeable future. So we were lucky enough to have our brother from Chicago, Immaculate, drop a track with us last month, and this guy over there,
Mr. Vanco.
Mr. Vanco, is up next.
And hopefully Mr. Evo the Myth as well. Huh? We need to look into that. Huh?
And and you.
Yes,
At some point.
absolutely. No. I'm done. You know, June is family, so you know we got to make this happen for sure. And so, Vanco, you and I we spoke on exactly this topic several times, and I've been telling you, for example, some of my strategies and how I have been, implementing the changes because just to add my little 2 cents to the conversation, and as beautifully brought by Eugene so far. Me personally, I have always known how to make money, but I was not financially literate enough to understand the importance of compounding my efforts and also having savings. Because when you're on the road and you're always traveling and you're always, you're making your money, you're not so stressed because you're like, okay, money's coming in, you know what's coming. So you kind of like, you feel comfortable enough that it's going to work out all right. But eventually, when this pandemic hit us, it really came and showed a majority of us, and even those who don't want to act as though it hit them, it hit everybody. And we spoke about that together with Vanco. Vanco, I know you've also, more like most of us, adapted. You started doing more lives. You also, if I recall, been noticed by the people of Blondish and a couple of other big names in the industry because of the quality of your lives. What would you say especially considering the fact that you're still relatively a new name in the game in South Africa, even though you've been doing music for quite some time and you've been knowing a lot of people in the industry. Only now or the past couple of years, past 2-3 years, you've been really getting the raising and the acclamation of your name. How do you see this whole pandemic impacting you in a positive way, and has it impacted you in a positive way?
So I like one of the things that Saint Evo took from Greg. First of all, it's like creating value. I feel like that's a very big question, because I'm not trying to answer it as for me for now. I'm just trying to answer it as a whole. I think creating value after such a pandemic is very hard, and it requires all players, from sponsors to promoters to us artists, and that's a big question that I've always been asking myself, and I don't have all the answers, but I feel like every person needs to adapt what works for them in creating in the value creation of whatever you're doing in life. At the same time, one of the biggest things that Saint Evo said, and I've been thinking about it for so long, is the behavior of artists. It even goes to promoters, to radio personalities, to managers, to all the trades. The behavior has definitely changed. So if
In which way?
I personally, I don't think for creatives it's very hard to get inspired. You don't know what people want right now. You don't know. I'm just speaking in the entertainment scene, or like it could even go into the medicine. Like I remember, Greg was talking about this. His sister getting. I mean, not trying to count bodies. It affects your body. It affects your behavior. Somehow how you conduct yourself into, and you lack on other things. So it goes down to Adrien, who's a promoter. It affects our behavior somehow. So one of the things that I personally did was asking myself, what's the new way, a new approach to make music? If I was going to the studio all the times, now I have to take a walk in the morning, maybe waking up and taking that walk or jog. It's a new way to find inspiration and a new way to connect with other things beyond people. So the negative side, we have seen it and it's still affecting us. But at the same time, it's finding that light in the darkness. There are days when even during this pandemic, you're just generally happy. And I feel like those days are very crucial, where you have to understand what is it that's making you happy today, even though it's like a pandemic.
So mental health.
So it's mental health. So it starts there, It's like a psychic game as well, And then it's not about money. It's not about how rich you are or whatever the case might be. It's about how is your behavior. Do you find some form of inspiration? Creative juices, are they coming in? It doesn't matter what trade you are in. So it starts from there. And then from there, and then it goes down to your approach and then finding ways. So one of the things, moving into answering your question as to what I did. So one of the things I did was joining live streams. So I'm a residency for Blondish show, which is Abracadabra. So it just didn't happen over there because they've been checking. I was doing live stream for June and other live streams, and I started my online show. It's called Algra as well, just to keep up the culture, dishing out music, because I feel like radio can only do so much. Apple Music, Spotify, all these platforms can only do so much, but they need help as well by us artists. The smallest help. You don't have to be big or well-known artists, but in your small doses, you can influence the culture. So I play music from different artists that I feel like they are not being performed there. And then this is just how things has been going. So basically, in a nutshell, it's just finding light in the dark. It's that little bit. And then you keep on carrying out with the culture.
Cuba is back. Cuba is back. So hopefully we can get your point, your impressions on. I don't know if you've managed to hear what we said, but we were talking about how this whole virus impacted the industry and what it requires. And Vanco, Ivo, Greg, and Adrien were talking about the some of the creative skills that it requires to really develop if you didn't have that in the first place. So tell us a little bit, Cuba. You are a very, very well-known name in the industry. You are looked at as a Sunboy killer. And, you definitely have done a lot of massive banging tunes. I can't even count the amount of bangers y'all created, but you, Cuba,
man.
you're one.
Thank you
bad,
so much.
You're one bad brother.
Hey, man, all the inspiration, bro, it comes from you guys, I mean, after
you're a very
listening
humble
to
guy as well.
Vanco.
I need to add on that. You're a very humble guy. So tell us, what has been some of the things that you've put in place in order for you to stay creative and to keep your name, obviously, to stay relevant in the industry?
Well, obviously, I haven't been making music let me just do this because I can't hear myself. I haven't been making music in a long time. But I keep getting like requests for remixes and stuff like that. That keeps me afloat. I think, with the remixes are the things that are still keeping my name up there, so I can also stay relevant. Also, I've been getting quite a lot of requests from other artists for me to mix their music and to master their music. So that too I can see that, okay, the name Cuba, people still talking about me, apart from the music side. So yeah, man, it's the remixes that have been keeping me afloat. But production wise, man, like I mentioned earlier with Saints, that inspiration, I haven't been inspired in a long time, and without inspiration, I mean, creativity can't exist,
True.
So I tend to, whenever I get these remix requests, those tend to be the moments where I'm like, oh, okay, let me try out something new because I haven't produced in a while. And then I tend to come up with something that's like, oh, okay, they love it. All right, wow, that's the form of joy that I get from this whole thing, And then apart from that, I've been quite fortunate that even way before the whole pandemic and everything, Vanco knows this. I'm always someone who's always confined. I keep myself here at the house. I don't go out there a lot. And during that time, I give myself a lot of time to learn other things. And that resulted in me now doing post-production.
Okay.
So that's what has been keeping me quite busy. Doing posts for film. Like right now, I'm working on a big project. I can't reveal at the moment, but I'm working on a big project.
Brother.
Also,
congratulations.
Thank you so much. Doing stuff for Super Sports as well. So that has been what's keeping me busy, and I'm very much fortunate and grateful that even though with the whole situation with the pandemic, I can still try and get some money
work.
into the house,
some
work as well. And also I'm very fortunate and grateful for the work that I'm getting from other fellow artists who are bringing in their work for mixing and mastering and stuff like that. So yeah, man, it's been really rough, but this also kind of made my other skills or talents shine. This situation that we're in. So
it forced you to come with new solutions, man.
exactly. Like you need to make a plan. That's what I grew up. You're always told that, yeah, man, a man make a plan. So a man makes a plan.
Yeah.
So in this case, man, I'm trying to utilize all the skills that I have, even sharing skills as well, because I never know who might need them and who it might help. So I don't know if an advocate is a strong word or I can use that word, but I'm a person who believes that we need to share as much info as we can, because you never know, maybe another person can help them, it can benefit them in other ways, So
100%.
yeah, man. This pandemic, man, it's just sad that it took a pandemic to happen for us to realize the other things that we have, the hidden talents that we have. But yeah, we need to just stay strong, man. Keep our heads afloat, and yeah.
Well, I'm glad that
do better.
there's something that I like about what you just said, and it's the fact that you manage, even though you're not inspired, and you probably feel very much, drawn into these emotions related to the whole thing, which I'm maybe speculating a little bit because you haven't exactly explained why, but I would have to definitely say that me personally, I went through a serious depression last year. Like, I have to say the first part of the whole thing, I was great, and I was doing my shows all the time, and I was psychologically like I was like boom, my shows, I was doing it every day. I mean, you guys were logging in every once in a while, and I was just super hyped because I wanted to. I don't know what it was, but I just had this adrenaline, this kick of adrenaline that kept me going. And then, come end of the year, I think I had accumulated me also catching COVID and almost dying from it, and having been met with my potential death, like literally face to face, was very revealing to me. So there was a lot of things that I disconnected from, as far as like emotions or sort of like. Ways I would feel about some things that help me understand that the essential is really your life, and to be healthy, and that you have family, people that you love around, and you know what, the rest will indeed follow. But like, as far as the creativity, I have to say, for me, it's been crazy. I have been, as much as I've been going through these emotion lows, but I've built that, because this is the thing, right? A lot of people, and Greg, maybe you might speak a little bit on that. For me, I've always, and I spoke about that with Adrien, and I have no problem talking about this openly because I think it's important. A name is a name, but there is so much more that goes beyond the name. And I love what you said, because you didn't try to act up. You didn't try to say, oh no. Of course you explain what you're doing, but you are very honest with you being creative or not, or what's making you not feeling creative. And I think that's very important, to be vulnerable enough to express that and say, look, it's hard, man. It's not easy. And so to stay creative in these rough times, I mean, or even to just want to go and do the floor of your club, even though there's no potential dates of you being able to reopen. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But you're just determined, and this is really amazing. And I think it's spirit. It's just that sense of positivity. Is that idea that you have to. It's that idea and that sentiment and that philosophy of constantly pushing through, no matter how hard, no matter how difficult it might be.
Exactly.
And I think that's really, really, really important. And you all of us here, I guess, testimony to that. But Greg, talking about appearances and acting as being an influential person in the radio business in South Africa, and someone who's been in the game for quite some time now. How do you think these ways of many artists of always, and we see that it hasn't changed a bit, even though we hope that the COVID would put some sense into people, but it hasn't for the majority. How do you think this necessity to appear as has eventually evolved, and do you see any sort of like coming to sense at some point as far as the community and as far as the
Yeah. So I made a point earlier that humanity has gone mad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys
yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Humanity has gone mad. So there's a lot of things that are happening that are weird, so to speak. I've had, just personally a very weird situation, and very unfortunate situation happened to me, which, I've kind of kept my silence, on that issue for a reason, right? Because, it's just nuts where people's minds are at, and sometimes you've got to take a step back and say, well, what, do I jump into this madness, or do I take a step back and watch it unfold? No matter how much it hurts me personally, how much it hurts my family, how much it hurts my name, um, you know, do I have the sense, to kind of be still and be quiet? And it's amazing what happens when, you take that moment of silence for yourself, and it's amazing what you start to hear. And essentially what I'm saying about that is, creatives, have this power when they are still. Humans have this power when they're still, to hear, what, what their heart and what their mind says they need to do at that particular moment. One of the biggest lessons through this thing is that we live in moments, right? So you've got to make that moment that you're in, a good moment. And if it isn't a good moment, then you engage with it as a bad moment. But it has to be a moment, and you've got to, move past it. And like I said, a lot of the thinking has got to go into, how do I start from scratch? So, forget your brand, forget your name, forget all those things. Especially for people like us who work hard for their money, who have, bills in the next month. You don't have a runway that's going to take you for 2 years. You literally have immediate things that you've got to deal with. So you have to say to yourself, what are the short-term things that I've got to look into? And what you find is that, those things open up when you show up authentically, right? So this conversation, for instance, for me is quite an important one. These are old friends, new friends, people who've met before, people who, have interacted and so forth. But none of us have had a conversation like this, for instance, just to say, so what's happening in Paris, what's happening in Kenya, and what are people looking for? And you find that when you start to share ideas with people and you start to pay things forward, it's amazing how that energy finds its way back to you, no matter what your circumstances are. I think that, we all have to get back to humanity more than anything. We can read as many books on strategy, as many books on, how to come out of a downturn and all of these things. But I think our humanity is the only thing that's going to center us, and those answers will start to come through. So, for instance, the continent of Africa, has massive potential from a tech perspective, and not as dictated by tech giants, and technophobes necessarily, but by creatives, because people don't consume tech; people consume content. The June guys, for instance, have thought about that very carefully. In Paris, Adrien, you guys are already kind of doing some interesting things. Vanco's been doing it. These are the same things because humans want the same thing. The people that we talk to are looking for the same thing. So how do we make it bigger and better for them? How do we make it exciting? I don't know if any of you guys watched the U.S. inaugural concert that was hosted by Tom Hanks. That was quite a hair-raising event, which not only kind of was entertaining, but was also helping the Americans come out of a very bad patch that happened in the last month, or in the last 4 years, depending on how you look at it. And they found creative ways of really communicating what their values are about and so forth. And so for the continent of Africa in particular, and people who are closest to it, people that are friends of ours, we have lots of people in France, for instance, that are very good friends of ours, in the US that are very good friends of ours, and so forth. But just the African diaspora. What are the conversations that we're having as Africans? What are people wanting to hear, from an African perspective? And how can we use tech to achieve those things? How do we get, players in the creative space being influential in, the design and the distribution of tech, on the continent? And those are very critical things that we've got to be applying our minds ourselves to, beyond creating songs, beyond creating events, beyond creating clubs and so forth. How do we get tech in the hands of people?
I definitely echo that. Any guys want to jump into what Greg just shared here, because that's actually, I think, a very essential point as to, and pretty much a obvious point, given the fact that it is because of tech that we managed to stay connected to the world. And
I don't know if you can hear me, but I've lost sound.
Yo, can you hear us? No, we can hear you. Maybe you cannot hear us. Are you okay? Can you hear us? Oh, okay. So as Greg was saying, and I think it's very important to emphasize on that, it's the how do you call this? The importance of tech and what it plays in the whole dynamic of this music industry, and how it is impacting the dynamic of the music industry and us as artists and as creatives. I think it's really a really great conversation. What have you been, for example, doing as far as that is concerned? You said that you guys are back with you guys are back on performing a little bit and having some limited amount of people attending venues, but on the actual streaming platforms, as far as you are concerned, have you been doing like live streams and stuff like that? What have been some of your strategies?
Yeah, actually, I did do some live streams, but reached a point I had to stop. But due to other business interests that I actually also do, which is farming and real estate. But I have to say that the alternative spaces have really opened up a new sphere in itself. Like one of the shows I actually performed at in Nairobi in October. I remember meeting some new fans, and some of them were saying that, "Hey, bro, man, I got to know you through your live stream," and these are people I had never had the chance of reaching. These are people I never knew. I think live streams are something that, well, I'd say before it wasn't really taken that seriously, but now it's become a boom in a sense, because how do I put it? Now people, or basically us as DJ producers, can now have a more intimate, interaction with our fans, and for me, I was caught back, because there were quite a lot of people who on that night when I was performing was saying, "Hey man, got to know you through your live stream. I got to know you through your live stream," and I think it was quite interesting, but I'd say in regards to live streams, I think it's something that in the future may play a huge role in adding value back to the industry, because I think it's more of trying to monetize it, which I think is the issue at the moment. People can put live streams on Facebook, it's taken down. I think that is the issue at the moment, and I think if that is tackled, we may be seeing a new revenue stream for musicians, record label owners, as well as promoters. Yeah.
I think there's something that I want to add to what you're saying here, and it's very important to add the fact that, yes, you're right about the income, but I think that when it comes to technology, and there's one thing that it's really great, is the fact that now you have super chat and super stickers. So, for example, fans, let's say, for example, as a DJ, you don't always perform music from your catalog; you perform other guys' music, right? So that you cannot monetize, but because of what YouTube or Twitch has been putting in place, you can actually get donations from people, and I think that's amazing, because
exactly
it really allows you as the DJ, even though you may not be super big, but I know of guys who are making actually a decent living, not but just enough to make ends meet, to pay for food, to pay for their rent, and that just based off of people donations because they've been consistent. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned, me personally, as I also had to shift my operations to the DJing to the actual streaming and the YouTubing and all that, is understanding that consistency and regularity is really the key to your success. And that's the case for anything in life, but even more so because we're in the streaming world. And that's very important. Vanco, talking about that, what is your take on that?
Yeah, on that aspect, it's also at a time where we're living right now. The word is to appreciate. It's like we gotta appreciate each other, and everyone is playing a part. And it's a time where you get to realize that because we were talking about the tech world now. So way back, nobody saw it coming. Like IT people and the music collaboration could make something amazing, And I feel like we're living at a time where we have to collaborate with other trades for this industry to be sustainable. Even beyond that, for us to come harder and stronger, we also need to think along the lines of collaborating with things like legals, like attorneys, like the lawyers, to change and improve some laws so that it covers us as artists, And also, I myself, I'm also in real estate, so I'm fortunate enough to have studied and thought about it. So I did a master's in real estate and stuff. But besides that, I find also that industry, there should be a way where we should combine real estate, for example, with music. So I'll give you a simple a scenario. We all get royalties from sales from certain streams, different streams, And I think artists should be allowed to borrow money, or be allowed to invest, or allowed to buy land or anything in real estate, And how do we secure that? So then now you involve accountants, legal stuff, and I feel like I hope I'm not spitting the bits. I kind of had a chat like this with you, Boddhi, way back besides this, like, bro, how do we have an industry where musicians are also covered? So I like the fact that everyone is talking about collaborative, collaborative system. It's very important. It's high time. Entertainment it has to collaborate with IT, with real estate, with legal, with all other professions, so that we also have sustainable and a very secure industry, and then we come back stronger. That's how I look at it.
Cuebur, on that.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I didn't mention this, but like everyone said, everyone is on their phones now, and the one thing that I even way before the whole lockdown situation, COVID, blah blah blah, I was like to myself, well, everyone is on their phones, so what is the best way to engage with our fans directly, because they are on their phones 24/7. And I remember, I think this was in 2017. I did a very first live stream playing this side, but streaming for the guys in Switzerland, because at the time they couldn't afford to buy my plane tickets, because I think they were too expensive at the time. But we managed to do like a whole live stream from here at my place, streaming to their club, in a club, in their system and everything. So and then that whole experience had me thinking, hey man, people are always on their phones. What other ways can I just do something that's similar, even if it's like sharing information, talking to, or just engaging with people? And I also started the whole idea of, you know what, because I know so much and I'm still learning, how about I start sharing my knowledge, and hopefully I would find my peers along the way who are going to share their knowledge with me as well. So I started the whole it's not even a channel, but a profile on Instagram called Mixed by Q, where every Wednesday I find myself just deconstructing a mix, or explaining or starting a mix from scratch and things like that. And then I saw the engagement with people, and I was like, you know what, this must be something that I keep doing, and it's going to grow, and it's going to bring in more people who don't know who I am and what I do. And it definitely has done that. And yeah, but like you said earlier, it's all about consistency and keep on doing it and keep on doing it. But then this whole COVID thing hit, and then it kind of drained me, and it also put me in a thing of like, you know what, I'm just tired of the world right now. Let me just step back and put myself out of this world. But then slowly now I'm getting back to it again. Yeah, technology has helped us a lot. We now we able to connect with other producers, other engineers, other DJs as well, and especially like right now, as I'm doing post production, we're able to connect with other fellow engineers who also doing post. We get to share ideas and stuff, and then we get to know each other that way as well. But yeah, man, technology, man, yeah, it's a tool at the end of the day. We need to see it as a tool and use it as a tool.
But are
In
we
order,
using it to the full of its potential, to the fullest of its potential? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
And also, I think there's a big problem in Africa. I don't know about South Africa, the price of the internet or the price of airtime, but in most part of the continent, there's a big issue with access to proper connectivity. I don't know about
Exactly.
Kenya,
Yeah.
but I mean, Kenya is pretty much ahead of the whole curve with the M-Pesa situation. So I don't know, maybe your price and the airtime is maybe cheaper. But for example, my country, Central African Republic, we have, I think, the second most expensive internet in the world, I think. Or the continent, I can't remember, but yeah, it's crazy. Greg,
Yeah.
maybe you want to, maybe you definitely have some intel on when it comes to these aspects of things, I think, or maybe some information you may be able to share with us. As far as like the way the telecoms are not really facilitating access, because if the youth as creatives could access even with more ease the internet, it would be so much better.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think there's a couple of things that we have to think about here. First is to understand, you know, what drives these telecoms, and you know and who are the people involved, and what's the ranking. And I know that this sounds like a long-winded thing, but when you think about, you know, the different people at different levels in these companies, each of them have, you know, different goals. And half the time, depending on who you're talking to, you know, you're talking to someone who's wanting to reach their targets. And if you don't understand what their targets are, you know, your proposal, or, you know, whatever you're trying to work on is not, you know, is not going to meet their favor. And people are about themselves, you know. So, you know, if you're an executive, you know, at a company, you know, your targets are the most important. Nothing else matters. And unless people bring to you concepts that work for you to achieve your targets, you are not engaging with them. So we need to educate ourselves around, you know, what is it that keeps a telecoms executive awake at night? What are their issues? So that's one. The other thing we then have to do is then say, how is what I do relevant, you know, to people across, you know, the and I'll call it investing community for you know, just broadly, but like brands and marketers. You know, what you know, what are they looking for, and can I give them what they're looking for? And it's very important to answer that question, as well, because if you can't go to someone with something that you want, then you find it difficult to deal with them. So very important to be aware of that. But then adjacent to that, right, there has to be a spirit of activism that the industry adopts to challenge, how corporates behave. Because at the end of the day, we are the market, and we are the people that, from a creative perspective, we are the people that are able to connect them to the many people that they want, to the many subscribers that they want. And so the subscribers have got to see value in what we do. So, Keyboard Touch, for instance, launched a campaign, a couple of years ago, to try and drive down, the rate of data. And a lot of people really stood on the sidelines, and said, well, he's crazy. What is he, what does he know? But it was a missed opportunity, because if, 3/4 of the industry had rallied behind him at that particular point, it would be in a different place now. So we missed an activism opportunity, at that point as an entire industry, to try and have a discussion with telcos to look at, where we can meet them. But having said that, a lot of telcos are starting to realize that, the first and most important thing, for acquiring customers and for building these relationships is access. So unless otherwise people access your network, you're not getting them. And for them to access your network, there's got to be things that pull them in. So from an artist's perspective, are we creating those opportunities? So for instance, do I go to a telco and say to them, I want to build a channel, and I've got my, brother in, Evo in Kenya, who's going to, give me some Kenyan content. I've got some stuff in Paris. Boddhi Satva's got a couple of things. We've built this body of work that people who like us can access on your network for free, right? However, we have this other body of work that we want people to subscribe to, and we want to, do deal X, with that particular space. It starts to become a totally different conversation, as opposed to, well, I'm an artist, cap in hand, and I'm, can you zero rate the airtime so people can access my content? You've got to be a business person in this particular instance. You've got to understand, how the telcos operate, and be able to say, how do I present myself as a player, and not as a person who's asking for favors? And I think that's important to understand those business models.
So you would say that it's really about positioning and which hat are you wearing that is going to be the very thing that will actually set you up for success, or for actually just being, as you said, asking favors. And nobody really gets anything by asking favors, especially if they don't really have anything to really sort of like give in counterpart, as far as like, quality of work or body of work or content. Or catalog. I mean, we're talking here about, creativity and Brother Greg, I think what you're saying is very, very important, because that's one of the things that I've had to discuss with a couple of brothers when they were like, oh, why are you making so much music? And I said, well, the reality is that we don't sell music anymore. Traxsource, Beatport, those platforms, I barely have any sales. As a matter of fact, I can see it because the exposure that I'm getting from these platforms, which are obviously not handled by artificial intelligence, they're handled by human beings, is obviously, guys that obviously will work with the trends, with who is selling who is whatever. But I'm not getting that because I'm not generating those numbers anymore on those platforms. However, if I look at Spotify, I will release a song with bare minimum, almost no promotion, and I'm seeing that just because of just using my promotional tools, my Instagram channel, all my avenues, and being consistent with it, and giving people a a consistent moment in time where they know that every Fridays or every 3 Fridays of the month, or 3 times or 4 times a month, there will be music from this guy coming in. They know that they can expect it, and so obviously that habit is being created, and this trust is a relationship of trust, right? It's like you're creating a trust with them because they trust you with providing them with the content that they're looking forward to hearing. And especially if you have a variety of sound, like for example, somebody like Cuebur who can produce such a variety of sounds and has as a skill set as a producer. Vanco, he has his sound. It's very niche, but it works very well, and it's the kind of sound that can generate if you work well your strategy, you can have the 40 to 50,000 streamers a month on Spotify. Ever the Myth, you have your own sound as well. You carve your own avenue, and made a name for yourself. Same thing. And I think when I'm to talk about the numbers, when I'm looking at my numbers on Spotify, just Spotify alone, I'm amazed. I'm like, dude, one of my songs had 120,000 streams in 2 months, and it's a deep house track that I did with thank you, bro. So it's like it's amazing to see that, and I'm talking about deep house, not even like that deep, that disclosure sound, which might be a little bit more accessible. We're talking about real Jersey deep, and so that was surprising to me. But then, in the meantime, I'll release a song in tribute to a brother from another who passed away in December last year, and the song only had 200 streams. 2 deep house songs. 2 different moments in time. I released that one in January. January, usually the streams go down, so it impacted the track. So you see, it's all about knowing, and working with the AI. So in other words, it's a dance that you're having with the artificial intelligence, because it will reward you for keeping people on their platform. So the moment you understand that as a business, that will eventually result in impacting you positively, because the platform knows automatically. Cuebur just released it. Evo, this boom. Here you go. And just like Brother Greg said, then with these numbers and these information, then you can eventually go to a telco or some other companies and say, look, guys, these are the type of numbers that we as a group we generate. Altogether, it represents X amounts of thousands. How can we come together and get this product product accessible to the mass at a fair price or whatever? I don't know if that would make sense. Is it something that's viable business-wise, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. So the game has changed. The game is really about numbers, but what you can do with the numbers, and how you present the numbers, right? So, there's 5 of you here who are creatives who make really amazing music and amazing content. So if I had to ask each of you, how many of you, how many followers have you got each? And let's just work roughly with numbers. If each of you have, call it 50,000, followers across a number of platforms, right? So, all of a sudden there's like 250,000 people, that you are talking to. Now, 250,000 people might sound small because there's people who have 1 million, 2 million, whatever. But you now have a 250,000 people that when you dig deep in the AI, you then have to say, how many of those people are loyal, right? Are followers of what we do. They're very consistent. They're there with us all the time. And all of a sudden you realize that you've got probably 200,000. So you take away the other 50. These are people that come and go. But there's a very strong 200,000 people that listen to you. And then you drill down further. Who are those people? What do they like? When do they respond? To your point, Boddhi, when you release this track and you get this feedback, and you release that track and you get that feedback. What are the trends? What are people liking, and at what particular time? And how do you take that information and package it to different people? Because I can tell you now, your 200,000 people from across, the diaspora, probably drink, bottled water. I'll make an example. And, billions of rands get spent on bottled water. A lot of competition in that particular space. Is anybody even talking to those particular markets? I don't know. Can you link those people to a variety of other content. Have you guys got friends who are doing other stuff, like chefs, or people who are interior designers, or people who are, so all of a sudden you've got, between the 5 of you, a number of other things that can plug in. Because in the end, what you want is for me as a consumer to be able to come in and say, when I get into this platform, I get to hear the music that I like, but I also get to see the furniture that I like. And by the way, I get to see the food that I like to eat. And I get, given all these other little tidbits of things that I didn't know. I didn't know about June in Paris. Now I have tickets for when lockdown opens. Value. When you're able to take all of the audiences that are talking to you, that are loyal to you now, put them all in one pot, find out the things that they like, and go and find the partners that are making things work and happen. You'll be amazed at what people are looking at. So, Vanco, if you're gonna go to Paris, for instance, to play at June, and again, all 5 of you say to Air France that we want to fly 10 people from South Africa who actually want to pay for this trip and who want to go and party with me, you will be amazed at what people are wanting to buy and are wanting to experience. And here you are going to give them, a first-hand access into, June, because the people at June, and the people at June are going to give them a great time, and because that the guys at June understand the impact of this thing at a digital level and how far it goes. So when you think about collaborations, you've got to think broader than just, the product that you've developed. You've got to think about how it impacts other industries. Where else do I get links to drive this thing? And you will find that collectively you start to have a far bigger voice than when you are trying to work individually.
Hey, man, I can't even echo that. I'm echoing that with a yes. 100%. Evil. I see you breeding dogs, right? You have is that a business that you're running?
Yes, it's a passion and also a business, man. Yeah.
So
I breed dogs.
That community, for example, right? Isn't that, for example, a community to be tapped into, for example, as far as potential, streamers and consumers of your work?
Indeed, it is. But just to touch a bit on what we were talking about, it's a bit tougher here in Kenya because it's the fact is that we can't still access things like Spotify.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, our region has been really isolated in a way, or not really considered, you could say. Most Kenyans use VPN, to access Spotify, Pandora, name it, all these other platforms. So it's been quite. I think a lot of creatives here in Kenya struggle to double in the international scene because access to these very things are tough, and now being able to tap into the people like you're saying, the dog community, it becomes a bit tough, because now you have to use terrestrial means, which in itself has other politics, So it's quite a challenge, because most of these tech companies tend to be a bit regional in how they put the spotlights. And for us here, for me personally, I've had to become innovative in how I get my music out there.
And how you make your money as well, obviously, right?
Sorry?
How you make your money as well, consequently.
Exactly. I even had to open my own record label, which has been an interesting journey. And I'm now also a promoter, but I'm basically trying to create platforms basically for other Kenyans and other East Africans as well, so they can be able to double in this scene, and be able to contribute in the international scene per se, So I think it's still going to be a challenge until we have such platforms accessible in certain regions of Africa. But as Greg was saying, these people have to meet the numbers. You know what I mean? So, but I don't know how to put it, man. It's a challenge, but I think it's something I and a few other people are trying to see how we can be able to get in touch with these various people and be able to show them that actually there are numbers here of people who actually stream. Because the amount of people who use VPN is there are millions of people who could dabble in this, and Kenya in itself is quite it's quite on the frontiers of tech. You know what I mean, with mobile money.
Then ask you the question, then why? How, maybe you don't know the answer. Maybe you do. How come has then Spotify entered that market yet when Spotify is already in Nigeria, and when we know that Kenya has been at the forefront? It's the Silicon Valley of Africa, in other words. Nairobi.
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
That's strange to me. I mean, Greg, do you have any explanations according to your observation? Why would the Spotify or these platforms not in Kenya yet? Is it political? What is it, do you think?
I'm myself here.
We can.
So it's money, right?
Okay.
So when you have huge amounts of money, you are able to do plenty, right? So that's the first thing. But I think in our instance, the failing is also in how governments think, right? Because it is very important to learn from what is happening trend-wise around the world, and when you see something that will be very powerful in your country, the first question you should be asking yourself is, how do I localize this idea? How do I localize, these things? Because these are the channels and the platforms that are going to allow, me to, kind of export, the culture. And governments, I think, fail in that instance. I mean, I think a lot of arts and culture departments across, the continent of Africa are really seen as, glorified events companies for governments. There's not a lot of, very, high risk thinking. There's not a lot of, investment in, in these spaces that are about a lot of people, that are about a lot of young people. We we talk nasty about the Chinese sometimes, but if you think about how China has become so powerful, a lot of it had to do with them closing their borders to, external interference, so to speak, and designing their own things internally, that service their people, that service their markets, and that helps them perfect their art and their tech, and then they're able to export, the culture or their service or their ability, as the Chinese. The Americans did the same way with music and movies, right? In fact, I talk about the 5 M's that the Americans got right. So if you think about marketing, movies, money, military, and the fact that they were able to put all those things to work together powerfully is something to keep in mind. As a young boy, I grew up thinking that the Americans won the Vietnam War.
Because the marketing was
because the marketing, when you watch those movies were super. It was about Chuck Norris coming out of the ashes, carrying a Vietnamese baby.
And God knows we love Chuck Norris and Jean-Claude Van Damme and all those guys.
Chuck Norris, So you've got to understand the smart and the power and the might of the Americans from that perspective. We know all the states, of America and what they do. But if we had to ask ourselves about some of the states in Africa and what they do, we don't know, because you don't have this big driving media force that works for our culture.
Not yet. Hopefully we are working on it. Now, talking about exactly that, at least echoing that, but from a different perspective, Adrien, as a club owner, as someone who deals with promoters, as also a festival promoter, you guys are doing the June experience in the south of Italy, in Sicily, every year. except unfortunately last year and this year due to COVID-19. How do you think the process of bookings will evolve from this point on? Because clearly, there is a appearance of new DJs that probably were very much under the radar because it was the market was saturated with already those dominating the game. But now because of the streaming and the way things are, do you think that this is going to be so my point is, do you think that DJs are going to be booked now based on the amount of streams they have when they do lives, or do you think that we're going to still maintain this usual good old ways of doing bookings and therefore good old politics of doing bookings? Give us your insights on that, according to you, your impressions.
Look, personally, I don't think our booking policy will change much. But if you look at most of the industry, and I'm not talking us because I think most of us here, we're still kind of part of the underground in a way. It's still niche. We're not the mainstream. Even when we do well at our own level. And so I think the mainstream anyways has never been focused on the right statistics. So if they want to start looking at streams instead of looking at likes or followers, good for them. But for us, I think what's great with the lockdown and everything is that at the beginning, some of us were really pessimistic about what was going to happen, about the creative outputs of our fellow artists and how it was going to maybe, if people cannot see you, do you even exist in a way? But what we've seen is that, first of all, artists have been more and more involved. And what we've seen is, for example, when Pioneer came out with the new CDJ 3000 or something, a lot of people were kind of teasing them in the comments, like, you guys chose the perfect time, no one is playing anymore, why do we need new turntables? And actually, we were speaking with one of the piano guys, and he was telling us that they never sold more turntables than now, because everyone wants to be a DJ, everyone wants to do their own live streams. Artists were already playing but didn't have their own setup at home had to get one, because that's where the music was now. So we have more and more artists. We had already a lot, but now we have, I think the barrier to entry has been lowered. So we have more and more creative output. And I think when it comes time for us to start booking events again, I'm really looking forward to it, because we have more and more diversity, more and more creativity. And that's honestly, at some point before all of this craziness started to happen, things were sometimes a little stale, with some of the same names coming, the artists releasing some of the same music. And I think, I'm hoping the situation kind of shakes things up a little bit and gives us a bit more time to consider what's important.
Okay. All right. Vanco, what do you think has been taken as far as the lesson from this whole COVID, especially you guys in SA? I think there was a point where I was starting to see you guys, especially in December, DJing again. At least some guys were DJing a lot, and they were traveling internally within the country and outside as well. How do you think that these parties, according to your impression, played a role in maybe aggravating the state where you guys are at, country-wise? And do you think it's going to delay the possibility for you guys to get back to DJing again in front of a public, of course?
Hey man, with this whole pandemic, the level of uncertainty is so high. Today you're back in business, tomorrow you're out of business. But then what I've learned for us as performers back here in South Africa, I think it's the time where you need to go back to the basics and start networking again. Because this is just me. There's so many promoters that were doing events before the pandemic. And then when here in South Africa, we had our lockdown in March. So there were promoters doing business before March. And between March and I think it was around October when events started kicking in, there were new promoters in the game. The game has changed already. You're like, oh, there's this new party here. People are trying something different. And you realize that between March and October, other people were building their events. Could be live or could be content creation or whatever. But bottom line is you find that you're an artist. I myself, I realized that I was dealing with new promoters, started dealing with new promoters and having to learn that people who were doing certain parties aren't doing those parties again. Certain venues closed, they couldn't open. They were hit so badly. There were new owners in. So now you have to go back to the drawing board and start networking again. So it kind of feels like, wow, I'm starting afresh. But then at the same time, if you are doing something and being proactive during lockdown, it works for you in your advantage. So that the old promoters and the new promoters and generally the people are aware of what you're doing, and it puts you in a different space. So that's my lesson,
But not to cut you, but I appreciate what you just said, which makes absolute sense. But now relating to the nightlife itself and to events, because obviously there is a fable that, and I mean some of it is true. Supposedly the virus is not hitting the continent exactly the same way it is hitting people decide, so people are not as affected supposedly. But anyway, I'm not a scientist, so I cannot advance this kind of information as if I knew what I'm talking about. But there's this belief that in Africa we are not suffering from this thing, man. This is not for us. So it's like, do you think that this mentality and this approach and the eagerness to get back to work, and obviously getting a breath of fresh air, especially having had to deal with all this confinement and restrictions, kind of got the whole scene to be too greedy and went out too fast, too hard, too much, too quickly? And do you think that eventually, because eventually this is messing up the business of all the old and the new promoters? Because if people start dying left and right, and your cases are supposedly now, because do you not understand that because of you guys, we have now we have a different variant. They call it the South African COVID. It's like, hi, what are you guys doing? Oh my God, come on. Maybe Greg, you and Cuebur could also intervene on this, because I think it's for you guys in SA. But like, come on, explain to me how is that making sense to anybody that, let's preserve our industry, because if we rush into it right away, we're gonna mess the business up. Do you think it's because of people imagining that it's not touching, Africans?
Okay, from my point of view, initially that was the vibe, that it's not touching African. Funny enough, like I stand to be corrected. When the lockdown restrictions were eased off, it was so packed at events, and one would ask one simple question like, where are people getting the money? It's like some people lost jobs, one, and then two, but there's people at Groove. There's more and more people coming for Groove. That was the first wave. And then just weeks before the recent lockdown, people were scared now because of the second wave. And then media also, it was also in news. I mean, it was just like out there, like, guys, there's a second wave coming in. So that's that mentality of this as Africans, this thing doesn't affect us.
It's gone now.
Things changed, things changed. And now we're here. So that's how so I wouldn't know from now, because now, from then until now, more jobs have been cut. less disposable income. So I wouldn't know what to say. I can't predict anything. The
Greg,
level of uncertainty is high.
Greg, according to you, to your expertise and your knowledge on the business aspect of the industry, how do you think what's the potential of the industry in South Africa as a whole to recuperate from the heat and the blast of the aftermath of this whole thing?
Well, I mean, just a couple of things. First, so the first thing is, it's important to understand, the global politics that come with an event like this, right? That thing that was called the South Africa, or that's now being called the South African strain. It supposedly started in London, and in 2 days that whole thing changed to South Africa. So the point is, it doesn't matter where this thing comes from. People are dying. So that's the first thing, right? The second thing is, it has affected lives and changed people's families. I mean, myself and 90% of my family, survived COVID. I'm talking about my little girls there. I'm talking about, my partner in life. I'm talking about my son. We had COVID, so it's a serious thing. So
that you guys survived.
Thank you, blessings, and you, brother, and you. I took the strength from you.
We're in this together.
Yes, sir. So it's quite serious, and it's quite serious where where our minds are at, where this thing is concerned. A few people with lots of money, lots of power, and lots of influence will talk about where vaccines are, how much they cost, who's developing the vaccines, and so forth and so forth. That's a conversation that very few of us can influence. But what we can influence is the people who consume us, the people who follow us, the people who do things because we say so. Those things are very important. We underestimate the influence that we have as artists, as producers, and as creatives. Boddhi, if you put out an ad, and you say, my show starts at X time, tune in, and thousands of people click and they tune. We shouldn't take that for granted, because when you say to people, come and do this thing, and they come. When June opens its doors and the club is full, those are people who came because they listened to what you said. So what you say matters. So those things are very important. So the only way we are going to come out of this thing, fighting fit and strong, is going to be understanding the amount of responsibility that comes with the influence that we have. Of course, we want the clubs to be full. Of course, we want all of these things to happen. But unless otherwise everything else is taken care of, COVID protocols, and all the things that need to be done, then we run the risk of destroying our industry forever. Yep. This has moved us into a different space. I mean, if you think about it from a different perspective, and Adrien, you were talking about Pioneer selling a lot of turntables, since this thing. Essentially, what this means, Boddhi, for a guy like you, is I could book you for 5 different parties at people's homes, because if I had never had the opportunity to go and see, Boddhi Satva perform at a club, and all of a sudden he can perform for my birthday party with me and my 20 friends at my house. And yes, I understand that it cost me a little bit of time. It's a different experience. And these are things that we need to be looking at, because, whilst we take our energy from the crowd, and whilst we take our inspiration from the crowd, and whilst we love being amongst the crowd, we should not be only dependent on physical contact, with people, because this is what happens when we can't be physically connected to people. So we've got to bring in the tech in the space, like I was saying earlier, and we've got to bring in, different innovative ways. I mean, Vanco, you would love to play for, someone in Mali who loves your music and has, 25, 30 other friends who love your music, and they have a house party, and you are, being beamed on a screen, and that's what you and that's what you're doing. So it opens up quite a lot of opportunities. The tech thing I can't express and emphasize more. That's going to allow us to be in many different homes, many different clubs, many different places, many different spaces, and that is the opportunity. And by the way, there's also this, it kind of created an equalizer. It democratized things a little bit because, like my friends, in DJU, Oskido, Fresh, DJ Christos and Vinny Da Vinci. 20 years ago, we had this conversation, and I said to them, every poster has your name on it, and that's great. But that means that what happens in 5 years when mixing is something that everybody does, which is how we actually started the music conference, was to say the more you elevate, more people in the game, the more you get elevated yourself. So these guys are still here, they're still relevant, they're still doing amazing things, and yet every street in South Africa has 2, 3, 4, 5 DJs. So what does that mean? That means that there's opportunities for 3, 4, 5 guys, that were available exclusively only to 5 people before. So it's really thinking differently about these things, and I think we can come out really strong. But bring the corporates in that thinking and play with the AI and understand how they are looking at AI and how we can use AI for our advantage.
100%. 100%. Anyone want to jump on what Greg just said before I ask my next question? I guess Greg just shut. You broke it down nicely. Drop the mic. I'm out. Now, there's something that you said that it's important for us to talk about, because I hear, and Adrien and I, we had this conversation a number of times as far as representation. So there's a lot of talks about women saying that they're feeling like there's not enough representation, and I would agree to a certain extent that there's indeed not enough representation of women in the industry, definitely. That there is indeed a problematic when it comes to giving opportunities, being more favored towards men instead of women when it comes to bookings. And I want to know, as far as like where we at now, in retrospect of everything that we've gone through. And this question is actually for all of you, gentlemen. But I would say, Adrien, first, if you can respond to me on that, is where do you see the implementations of change as far as getting more representations, getting more women behind the decks, and getting maybe the brand of June and all its festival, streams of brands to sort of like help bring that force, as in, and what I'm by woman, I mean, a woman, LGBT and all that. And because obviously LGBT is implied because the nightlife is very much connected to it, but there's still a lot of, exclusion going on. So yeah, what is your take on that? Because that's a very hype conversation. It's a very needed conversation, but, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because, I think it's important to have everyone's point of view on it.
Yeah, I agree. And I was telling you, we have more and more artists, and that comes in like every segment of the population. Like at some point, I remember I've been booking events at June. I've been like the artistic director since 2013, and I remember in the beginning, some of the promoters we were talking to, when we were suggesting some names, we often had the it's not like we're not looking at every booking like, okay, you booked a guy, next time you have to book a woman. But sometimes I like to look at the overall state of the program and like, okay, so let's look at the next, 6 months and what happened, Are we happy with it? And so I was having the talk with some of our promoters, and I was like, look, I think, and you've been booking, for example, only house producers from New York, and like we love that sound and we love that style, but house music is so wide. Why limit
Only
yourself?
focus.
And at some point I was telling them, look at Chicago, look at Detroit, look at South Africa, look at, so many places where we have so many great artists to look at. And at some point I remember having a conversation with a promoter, and I was telling him, I noticed you only booked male DJ, like guys at your events, and have you looked at I don't know, at the time I was like really focused on what KN was doing from Detroit because she's badass. And I was asking him, like, look, you booked Delano Smith, you booked Terrence Parker, why not KN? She's playing the same type of music, she's amazing. What do you think? And I remember he was like, I don't know, I don't think it's gonna have the same pull. And I was telling him, well, what about, I mean, I disagree because we packed the place with KN multiple times, but I was telling him, like, what other, and he was basically, long story short, he was telling me, I don't think there are a lot of women playing the music we want. And first of all, I think that was based in 2013, 2014. I think that was based, first of all, on a lack of representation, because that's, and I don't think it's ever been that there's not enough women DJs, is that they haven't been showcased in the same way some other artists have. So if you don't bother to look for them, you can feel like, there's not any women DJs. And if that might have been an excuse in 2013, in 2021, the next guy who gives me this excuse, honestly, I'm going to laugh in his face, because in France, we have an amazing number of artists and new artists getting into it like never before. And in the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen some really cool new names show up, and really there's no excuse to have the same lineup of white guys in black t-shirts that most festivals usually have in 2021. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see the lineups people are gonna come up with, because there's really plenty to choose from.
All right, good. Evil the Myth, Saint Evil. Tell us a little bit. So, what's that conversation like in Kenya, for example? Do we see the resurgence of? I mean, do we see a lot more female DJs, or tell us a little bit about that?
Well, in Kenya, first of all, the house music scene is still embryonic. It's still growing. Hasn't reached the level where South Africa has, as well as Europe, but we're getting there. And for me, these are some of the issues I was actually thinking about, and that's why I decided to also, actually this year is when I decided to enter into promotion. I started a company called Captica, where I decided I'll be now doing events. Other than just being a producer and a record label owner. And one of the things I noticed is that there's a lot of untapped talent, especially female talent, because I think women are more emotive than we are as men. They're more emotionally in tune, I could say. Others could argue, I don't know about that. But for me, I've been trying to create platforms for them as well. And I, as a producer, and I've been trying to help also people who are much closer to me. Like most of the vocalists that I work with who are female, I usually tend to encourage them to have their own studio setup at home. That way, they can be able to understand the tech, and that way they can be able to start even producing. You know what I mean? Because it may be a bit tough at times, but that is what I try to do from my end. The little that I can, I believe it can go a long way. And even with the events, actually, I should be doing an all-female lineup come March, and the thing is yes, there has been there has been some sidelining, as Adrien is saying. You know what I mean? So for me, I've been with the influence and the little that I can do. That is what I've been trying to do. You know, whenever I meet a female artist, whenever I meet a female DJ, I encourage them, try and get as much tech, try and understand the equipment, and do it. You know what I mean? Because people want to hear you. People want to hear you too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And this question is for all you guys, including myself, to answer too. But would you think that then continentally, if we're talking about the African continent, would you say that first of all, DJing is not necessarily perceived as a job still to this day? If you go to your father and your mother and say, "I'm going to be a DJ," he'll be like, "Hey, look, there's no different guitar here. There's no black coffee here. Yours." Go get yourself. These guys, there's only one in every centuries, I guess, whatever. But would you say that is it a question? So this is where I'm getting. When I'm listening to some of my female friends who are DJs on the continent or from the continent, they complain of the patriarchy, which is very much in place in most of our business environment. And I mean, I understand the narrative and I understand the tech, and I do understand the what they mean by that, because in some aspects it can be perceived. But I think that echoing what you just said, there's a sense of like either some of them feel like they're not being empowered, they're not being encouraged to really enter the business, and they're not feeling held and supported, right? And at the same time, some don't even complain about that, but still kick ass on the decks and freaking turn up the whole club, and you don't really hear them saying anything. So it's like, would you say that it's a question of mentality that's not allowing, or that's not really seeing women yet as a normalized thing behind the decks on the continent? Or you think that it has nothing to do with that, and it's just a matter of time before, the whole nightlife, the whole industry gets a little bit more inclusive? Or is it already inclusive? I mean, that's pretty much, it's a long question, but yeah. Greg, what you think?
So, for me, this issue is multi-layered, right? And I think that sometimes we want to apply one solution to an issue that's got multiple challenges to it. So here's the first stream for me, right? One is that for us to achieve anything, right? So, and I mean anything, we have to be deliberate about the things that we do, right? So you've got to be able to say there's a deliberate and concerted effort to pick these people or this group of performers, this group of artists that are women that we are going to take through the value chain. I think the most important thing to understand is that in the music industry, there are a number of things that you've got to think about. So one is that some people are extremely talented, but don't have the right people around them to help them succeed. And some people are mediocre, but have really great marketing behind them, and they just flourish. So the issue around women is not just in the music industry; it's right across the different industries. So how do you deal with that from that perspective? So I want to narrow it between, or try and think about it from an African and European perspective. The opportunity in Africa, for me, where women are concerned, is that what the African male has not succeeded in doing is digging deep and developing an audience. Okay. And what I mean by that is you've got to cultivate an audience, from its roots, right? And not want to share in a small slither of people that are followers of this one, or followers of that one, or followers of, so, when you say, I want to break into the industry, what does that mean? Does that mean that you want to be seen to DJ with these people or those people, or be booked by these particular clubs? Or are you sitting back and saying, if I had to be honest with myself, what is the size of the clubbing industry in Johannesburg, as an example, right? How many people go to clubs? And is that number of people equal to the number of people that love the music? And what you will find is that it's that answer is no, right? Because there's only so many people that can access a club. One, because of money. Two, because of age. Three, etc. And I'm talking in a normal situation now.
Yeah, of course.
But now you've got this tech, which is an equalizer, right? Equalizer in a sense that now it's really about what people are capable of doing. So what are you able to do that you can present as a showcase talent, something that you bring to the world. But more importantly then is that the guys who have made it in the game have got to be very deliberate about promoting someone who is very serious about the game, who has shown talent and resilience. So if you look at the relationship that DJ Zinhle and Oskido has, as an example, that's a classic example. I mean, I have footage of us in Miami, and we deliberately set up a conversation between DJ Zinhle and Anani in 2009, right?
Wow.
And,
when Anani released My Name Is on Nulu, right? It was actually one of the biggest tune of that conference at the time. It was amazing.
Absolutely, and we set up that conversation, in fact, long before that even, right? So we were still going into 2010. So this is well over 11 years ago. And we were deliberate about, what Zinhle's path was. We were deliberate about, the stuff that we wanted to do with Anani. But both these women were already very powerful. Both these women were, showing presence in the space and did not, wait for us to do things, right? They saw the gaps. They challenged us on certain things. They were fighters. They were resilient. They did some amazing things. We ended up having to, get to a point where we sat back and we listened to how they wanted to drive, their passion and their hard work into this particular space, because it was even more important for them, not to come across as, or not to be, women who were helped by guys because the guys are in the game, but they.
Thank you for adding that. Thank you for adding that. Thank you very much for adding that.
Do you know what I mean? So it's very important to understand, those particular dynamics. But, but it's also important to say, what are the new opportunities that need to be built that will make the, women's presence last in the game, right? How many 16-year-olds love music but can't access it in clubs, but have phones? And how do we create an environment where you start to normalize, women in production, women in DJing, and women in just kind of talking about the music and being historians about the music and being historians about the game, that to 16-year-olds and 13-year-olds, it's normal, right? So you're not trying to break into this already cluttered space, where you've got, all these, white guys in black t-shirts, like Adrien say, and one black guy with a black t-shirt, who happens to have black in his name too. You know what I mean? Because everybody's trying to kind of break into the top, but the value is at the bottom of the pyramid. That's where the numbers are sitting, right? The guys at the top got there because they rose from the bottom. And so we've got to be very deliberate about creating real opportunities. For if my little girls, grow up with, Zinhle as an icon, it's not, so for them, it's not strange. They start seeking other people, like Zinhle, because they want to hear different styles of music from other women. It becomes natural as opposed to it being kind of force-fed, and people trying to tick boxes and, fill in quotas. I think we need to be very careful about those things. We need to be deliberate about creating lasting careers. We did that in radio when people thought you can't have, women in radio. My involvement in radio, I mean, I've been in radio in South Africa, up until December was 25, 26 years. And in all that time, I can go back to, hundreds of women that I've engaged with, all of whom, ended up, in the front of the lines, on air, but more importantly, behind the scenes, because they then control the voice that goes out on air. And it's also important to understand all those different dynamics.
Very important contribution here. Thank you very much, Greg. That was very important indeed. Vanco, what you saying? Put your hold on, let me unmute you. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I
think
because
hold on before you say anything. Because by the way, let's mention the fact that, and this is another thing. So we talk about us men, but it's amazing how when women decide to support you, the power. No, it's crazy, man. There's something impressive when lionesses decide to say, "Hey, look, me." I remember with Umu Sangare. Sorry, Vanco, I'm going to let you answer, but I just wanted to add that Umu Sangare. When I did that song with her, first of all, when I did that remix of Nyari Kono of Andia, sorry, from her first album, that lady, that woman, took me. She said, "Little bro, I got you. I understand what you did with my music. Don't worry." She paid for the video. She did. No, I said, okay, this is. I've understood that in this industry as well, women who are in position of power have this thing of lionesses. So they look after the cubs. They're making sure that, okay, look, how can I come and nourish you and sort of like, prepare you to be what you want to be. So there's this motherly and very powerful energy. And I noticed that Blondish noticing you is a bit, okay, maybe some people say, they're just so valuing this black guy. They will just, but no, look, there's something more than that. Why you? Why specifically you? What in your music touched them in the way they did and they decided to say, you know what? Look, let's give this brother some light. That's also another conversation where women actually give light on fellow men, and that's something very amazing. So I'd like for you to give us your take on that.
Yeah, I also like what you just said, that when women support your craft, it's amazing. A simple thing. I mean, I could repost your song on Instagram, and some lady or any other lady can take a snap listening to your song. I'm sure there'll be comments, "Oh wow, buddy, they're listening to you." I mean, it goes a long way, So to answer your question, I think it comes down to personality, character, and what you represent, and it goes. We all come from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
For me, I'll speak for myself. I was raised by a single mom, so I value like women. For me, I value women. I have that level of respect. Not to say anything for other people. So it comes down to how you make other women feel when you engage with them or talk with them. It goes a long way. So I think that's very important, And then if the energy is great, then you share this great energy, and you come up with great ideas, and then you move on into other space,
Absolutely.
Yes, and then moving on to the blondish, like for instance, like the blondish talk. It was more of a mutual and a respectful talk between them, and also realizing what I represent. I guess it's the energy aspect of it.
Yeah.
It goes also a long way. And if there's no respect or some kind of valuing in it, which is organic, you don't have to pretend or anything. They can sense them. They're lionesses, like you've said.
Of course.
They can pick up. And yeah,
As Ivo was saying, the way they're connected with the emotions is so much more authentic than us. So you
yes.
can't play, you can't fake the funk.
and
exactly.
to add on to what you were saying about working with women and women being recognized in the industry, Adrien Saint Ivo have basically said the same thing. They didn't have a voice before, and now that they have a voice, what's next? I think it has to stop about saying it's a lady. The lady is great. She's great. She needs to play here. You must give an opportunity. She needs this deal. She needs this endorsement. It doesn't matter that we need to have males. So it's just about the craft because they're talented. So one of the things that I'm involved in and been proactive in is an event called Light Up that we formed with Mr. Joe. So that event is called Light Up. So we've been doing about 6 episodes. So in all those 6 episodes, we make sure we fuse it up and bring in female DJs. And this is not, and we're not bringing female DJs in the notion of saying we just want a female DJ because they're great. They're dope.
That's it. That's it. Talents. Yeah.
Great
100%.
music, great energy, great set. You play. That's it.
Easy.
So one of the girls I've got Tandy Dry who's been proactive in the industry. 10 Oceans,
Very talented. Shout out to Tandy Dry. Shout out to Tandy Dry.
And a lot of them, Devin Gogo, Desiree, and Nani. So they're great.
Yeah, man.
They're great. They're good. So yeah, that's just my take.
Appreciate that take, man. Brother Cuebur, what's your take? What's your contribution to this one as we're coming to a wrap up of this conversation?
I've recently joined a friend of mine. His name is Boki Alt, a very good DJ and producer. In the mission of training female DJs, because you can see there's a lot of women who are interested in this whole thing of DJing. So my contribution to that is also giving lessons with production, because there's not a lot of women who are into production, not a lot of women who are into engineering and mastering. And so it's sharing that, or teaching them how to produce, teaching them how to engineer, master, all that other stuff is my contribution. And what else can I add? There's really not much I could say, because basically everyone, Krotman, Greg, Vanco, all of you guys have covered everything into one circle. But then also I've been having this thing for the longest time. Like, when will we stop saying female DJs and just recognize them as DJs?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And also they themselves, they shouldn't introduce themselves like I'm a female DJ, because I find a lot of girls who are like, maybe they DM me wanting to be put on a show or something. Maybe Vanco, you have experienced this, where they're like, yo man, I'm a female DJ. Why don't you just say
DJ.
I'm a DJ, because we the only thing that separates us is only our genitalia only, but everything else, DJing is like a skill that anyone can acquire with lots of practice, so you're a DJ at the end of the day. It's the same with producing. Don't say I'm a female producer, I'm a female this. You are a producer, you are a DJ, you are a mastering engineer, so also I would like to encourage all the women, aspiring producers, DJs, to have that thought that you are a producer, you are a DJ, you're not a female this, female that. So I guess
You feel like the fact that they're adding the term female is isolating them more, or creating a little bit more of a
like they're boxing themselves into.
they're boxing themselves. Okay.
Yeah, they're boxing themselves. Like, I don't know if you say if you approach someone and say you're a female DJ, what does that person have to feel? How does that person have to feel about you saying that you're female this, you're female
Yeah,
that?
it's like saying you're a female sailor. You're a sailor. That's it.
Yeah, you're a sailor. So
I get it.
yeah. So it's one of those things.
Well,
Sorry, wait,
fantastic.
brother.
Go ahead, brother.
I'm sorry. I just want to jump in and
Please.
Yes.
It's so we also have to understand the struggles that women face. I think one of the big challenges as men is we always kind of very naturally talk from a point of authority as if we know.
That's true.
And I think what we should do is open ourselves up to learning, right, about
100%.
things. But also, if you're going to want to be inclusive, right, in any space and in any industry, what you have to think about is not the labels or all these things. It's essentially about re-engineering the space. This is what the big challenge is, and this is what people are not having discussions about. I'll give you one example. When you have women in your employ, as an executive or as a team member, you've got to think about the many different phases, right?
Indeed.
So if two members in a team of 10, and it's 6 women and 4 guys, if 2 members of the team fall pregnant and they have to go and have children, there are very few companies that have thought about what the impact is in that particular space and how do you mitigate for that particular factor, right?
Yeah.
And how do you make it comfortable for women to very freely, when they've decided it's time to have a family, I can just go and have a family, and this is not going to risk my business. So in the way that corporations are designed, in the way that, it's the same as, how buildings have had to change, to be able to cater for people who were disabled. I mean, back in the day, no one cared. There was stairs everywhere. There was, nobody thought about, what if a person is in a wheelchair? How are they going to access the building? And buildings had to be broken down and rebuilt, and things had to be changed. So there's a physical change that needs to happen, right, in certain 100%. Things, in certain spaces, that make it attractive and comfortable for women to perform. Because if a space has been designed, it's the same as race, right? Where if I often say in the South African context, is that Black people in this country and generally, and I think mostly across Africa, we did not design the economy. So it's very difficult to then come in and say, well, you want to be this big player in this economy, when you didn't design the game. You will never win a game you don't design. So the design of the game is going to change. And that's what we're afraid of. That's what all the men are afraid of. Black, white, all types of men. We're all afraid of starting from scratch. Break down the entire building and rebuild from scratch. We want to patch the thing. No, we can allow them. Oh, this thing is now fine for these ones.
No,
that one.
It's like trying to limit greatness. What is great is going to be great regardless.
You've got to start from scratch, brother. Otherwise, all it is people trying to fit into an old system, and it doesn't allow for any innovation or any sort of change. So there's some serious changing that needs to happen. Sorry, and I'll be quiet now.
No. Please, brother, that input is very important, and I think that it speaks volume as to also how sensitive we all are to the conversation. Because I think that it's very often taken for granted that men don't care, and based on I have heard this, or this is what happened. This is look. At the end of the day, we are all here sons of mothers. We all have sisters. We all have daughters. We all have nieces. We all have female important in our lives. Now, not all of us value the divine feminine. Not all of us understand the importance and the essential attribute in our lives and contribution in our lives that women represent. But for those of us who do, I think it is important to let this be known that, we are all in our own capacities, I think, trying our best to change the narrative, break down the buildings that you, Greg, were speaking about. And it's not easy because you single-handedly, Greg, or you single-handedly, Cuebur, or you single-handedly, Adrien, or none of us here at Vanco or Evo or myself can do it. It's all together as men who this space, because I was criticized recently for putting this conversation. And I will say this because it's important that people know me. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to back down and is going to let nobody bully me. You're not going to bully me. I'm not that guy. Oh, why are you only having guys talking? First of all, I invite who I want, when I want. If you don't like it, do your own show. This is my show. This is my conversation. So go away with your nonsense because I don't need your criticism. That's first point. Second point, we are concerned with topics that we feel and understand have an important impact on the long term. And we have all played a role at different levels to make sure that we are bringing about and bringing forth the change of narratives, the change of paradigm from this overly dominated and super masculine energy where, a girl will walk in a room and she would feel like, she's being, raped with the eyes alone. No, cool. We are all, I look at myself as a gentleman. I believe you, Greg, you are one. Adrien is one. All of us here are gentlemen. We know how to care ourselves and how to move. But I think that it is important to also communicate that knowledge and that experience, and also that a trait that is it's a sense of gravitas that you add to the personality of a woman that enters in this field. Because again, as it is predominantly masculine, we need to make the space as those who are sensitive to having our sisters, our daughters, etc. Just like you, Greg, were mentioning about your little daughters. If they want to be the next Zincle, they need to have the space. You want them to have the possibility to be doing that in absolute freedom and safety. So these conversations are very important. And I think it's amazing that 6 guys can sit down from different parts in the world, different age groups, and come and talk together. People don't understand the magnitude of this conversation. Somebody like Greg Maloka is not somebody you access easily. And that's also why, you will hear, guys like Cuebur or Vanco, Sekhrotman, because we're talking to a legend in the game. So let's give people their flowers where they are due. And to be quite honest with you, I think that is the most important for me. This conversation is about uplifting one another. It's about holding space for those who don't have that space and giving them the opportunity to truly shine and be the best potential. And I thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me today. Ivo, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you. I really, really am glad that you accepted my invitation, because you're one brother that I've always observed you from afar. And I've been looking at you move. We've had some small interactions here and there sometimes, but I really wanted you to be part of this conversation because I feel it's very important as I see what you're doing, and I want you to know that I give you your flowers and I respect you, my king. Brother Vanco, you already know, man. No, of course, man. It's amazing to have you. Please go ahead. You want to say something?
No, I just want to let people know that we appreciate you, Boddhi, especially for most of us, the younger generation. We might not have told you because there's like egos and stuff in the industry.
Yeah.
But you're like a game changer in the sound. That, and people need to know that it shouldn't be, people shouldn't hide. And going to Hotman, great. You've played a role that some of us now get to hear about oh, okay, so the radio, all these events, also all these platforms that we like have now, we take them for granted. But if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be here. Moving on to my brother Adrien, I appreciate you a lot. You know, you make us look like stars, man. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, but in real, but in real, you just appreciate the energy because it's like you uplift all the artists that can't play at June. So playing at June is like, I guess it's like the mecca of rum, you know, like Boddhi say, and people should know these things that it's not something to take for granted. And I appreciate my brother Cuebur for helping me actually. If it wasn't for Cuebur, I wouldn't be here, and people should know that, you know, because Cuebur is the number one guy that came and said, "Bro, I think you get talent, and you should put this music out." At that time, I was working as a quantity surveyor, as a construction miserable guy, and then eventually I left doing what I like, go with you, and said, "Evo, I appreciate the inspiration and stuff." So I just want people to know that we're all connecting, and everyone plays a role in everyone's life. Appreciate that.
And let's stop trying to cancel each other because of X, Y, Z, and Z. You know, we are all here in this. You know your facts before you talk shit. All right?
Yeah,
Don't come with nonsense. So, guys, you know, I appreciate you, and I really want to make sure that we.
Let's give you your flowers too, brother. I think.
Yes, man. Actually, I was about to too.
Are you gonna make a brush now?
Yeah.
I think I'd like to think that I speak for everyone here when I say that, you know, in the game of you know, humility, in the game of egos, the humility is always refreshing. And I've yet to find one person who will say to me, you know, I don't know about Boddhi Satva is egotistic. I've known you for many years, brother, over 15 years now personally. I feel.
Yes.
And you know, we took our relationship to another level when I met Papa and you trusted me with, you know, hosting Papa. That for me was quite an important thing, where we said beyond our, you know, relationship in the game, you know, we're also family, and I think that's very important. That's what I now regard every person that I've come across through you, you know, including, you know, these fine people, these fine gentlemen here. You are one of those people who have kept the sound of the continent alive, and I don't think we give you that, you know, credit enough.
Thank you,
where, you know, the you know, kind of like the level of quality that this continent, you know, has produced, can produce, the work that you've done, you know, with many acts, you know, across the continent. You know, Louis Vega and myself have had, you know, hours of conversations about your music. You know, we've listened to countless music of it. Every radio station that I've worked at has played your music like it was Beyonce or Jay-Z's music. So, you know, you have to.
Thanks to you, my son was Victor. You brought me some good royalties.
I mean, yeah. You know, and all of that was deliberate, my brother, because of the man and the spirit that you are. And we thank you and we love you and appreciate this, man. Thank you, bro.
Likewise, King. Likewise. And Kings, it's really an honor. Honestly, I really appreciate you all for taking your precious time to even be part of this conversation. Any last words, guys? If you want to maybe promote some of the next project, please go ahead, Ivo. Go ahead.
Oh no, just wanted to say something since I have the opportunity now. I'm humbled and honored to be amongst all of you. I've looked up to a lot of you, you know, and I'm humbled to be here on this platform together with you guys, sharing our thoughts and opinions, and, you know, looking for ways and forward-thinking ways of helping our various regions. And I have to say, Boddhi, somebody coming from Kenya, you know, somebody coming from Central Africa, you know, you really inspired me, brother. You know, you really showed me that East Africa can also have a story to tell. You know,
and you're telling the story,
music. You know what I mean? So I have to give you also your flowers, man. As in, you really inspired us. And Cuebur, you know, man, I used to listen to your productions, be like, whoa, when will I ever produce like that? You know, man. And, you know, hey, man, it's an OG, man. And you know, Dijon playing a huge huge influence in the culture. You know, Adrien, man, I have to say, big ups to that, man. And Vanco, man, your productions are on another level, bro. And you inspire me as well, bro. And you know, we need to have more of this kind of conversations because you know they will really help in building bridges, you know, and creating various platforms that we can be able to explore. And,
that's what it is about, man. And I want to emphasize on what you just said here. You just said here, Evo, I don't know you. I just know you through your music. Yet I invited you on this platform is to show that I believe that it's not about how big your name is. Obviously, I will look at merit. I see the work you're putting. I want to put light on it. Because
Thank
if
you,
you just because and that goes for both men and women. Your gender doesn't mean anything to me. It's the work and the work ethic that you have. That is what's going to make me want to be like, you know what? No, let me connect you with this, that person. Go ahead and work. Because let's not act like everything is democratized. This music business is a cutthroat business. And if you are to be a fool to think that everybody's going to be so gentle and sweet. There's sharks, there's bad motherfuckers out there. Asus, because you can curse on my show, by the way. There's no, you know. So you have to be prepared. This is not a toy. So we are here to be at least in the presence of people who, and when we have the chance to be in presence of people who really care, bro, it's invaluable. So this panel, for me, amazing. And I hope it really brings and bears amazing fruits that, our brother Adrien and the June can also benefit from that as well, because they have been a location that has supported the music, has put money in my pocket various times as they booked me. And I cannot be more honored to have Adrien, and also send my regards to your father, Afshin, Adrien, the whole family. Man, you guys are doing amazing work, and we give you your flowers, because the June needs to last the test of time, and it will indeed, just like Ministry of Sound and all these big venues.
We hope to be here for a long time and to bring all of you guys to Paris soon.
Thank you, man. Look forward.
And I salute everyone.
Sorry. I just wanted to say one last thing, Mr. Greg Maloka. I have to say that you've done a really great job in playing a huge role in South African market and international wise. You know, for me, forgive me the time, Boddhi. You know, I'd just like to say, for me, house music. I got into house music because I came to study in South Africa. You know, I lived there for 4 years, and you're the great guys that really inspired me to get into the genre. Then, you know, followed by Boddhi and the rest. So I'd like to say, man, huge flowers to you, man. You know, thank you for inspiring us to reach those levels.
I appreciate it.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
It's a fantastic gathering. All right, family, y'all be well. We shall sign out from this broadcast, family. Those in the chat, everyone joining in, Papa Kesha, Satellites, all the people supporting the show, thank you very much for tuning in. There was, of course, people who donated, so thank you as well for that. And man, until the next Confinement Talks next Wednesday, y'all be well and blessed. And thank you again, all of you gentlemen, for your beautiful time. Boddhi Satva signing out. Confinement Talks number 2. We out.
pleasure.
Appreciate all of y'all. I appreciate